Samskritam naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasatim vyasam tito jayo udire nishta prayashu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevya bhagavati uttamashoki bhaktir bhavati naishtiki nigama kapurugaritam param shukam akaramita dravi samitam pibata bhakatam rashamariyam hora hora sikabhavigaham Krishna swadam apagate dhammagini karonashta dvishamasha paranako dunodidaham Twamapiyada Bhushuta Vishutam Vibhu Samapyadana Bidambiduksharam Pragyahi Duhur Mardidam Sanklesha Nirvana Musanti Nanyataham Om Narayanaya Vidmahi Vasadevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodhyate Om Mahadevi Chavidnahi Vishnu Padni Chadimihi Tano Lakshmi Prachodhyate Mahalakshmi Namastubhyam Namastubhyam Sare Sare Hari Priya Namastubhyam Namastubhyo Dhyadire Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamani Hari Priya Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinu Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Kanta Namostite Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Pastaya Bhutare Srimati Bhakti Vrata Shami Tinamani Namaste Sarasati Devi Guravani Pachari Nivashes Sunivari Vaskada Desana Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Hare Hare. This is Caru. Motivational Monday. Welcome, Rob. We lost some momentum when we took a break being involved in all the color festivals. I think it's been 8 color festivals, 3 in Utah and 5 in other locations. So we've got Rob, our stalwart, our consistent listener. Right now, as of this moment, there's no one at least commenting on Facebook Live. But experience has that during the course of our talk, at least a half a dozen people will jump on. So in anticipation of that, we say welcome, and welcome to Rob also. Interesting share with you on the weekend. I was supposed to have been at the Festival of Charity in Boston, although I didn't know about it. It was a successful event. It was held on Saturday in the Boston Commons. Actually, my wife and I spent 3 months in Boston sometime in 1978, I believe, when Agrani was president back there. It was a wonderful 3 months. They have a row house, quite a spacious row house, which has been their temple since forever. And it was right across from this wonderful park, tree-lined, grass-filled park called the Boston Commons. And apparently that's where the festival congregated, which I assume would have been right in the same neighborhood as the temple. Anyway, I had apparently done a Zoom talk with the Boston Temple months or maybe even a year ago, after which the president there and I had discussed my coming to be an MC for their festival, as well as to do some of the rap songs. But it was so long ago, I just had something in my memory vaguely about June 17th or whatever it was, and Boston. And so around 8th of June, 9th of June, just a couple of weeks ago, I got an email from the president, said, just reminding you of your commitment to come and be the MC. So I was delighted and honored that he would remember that, because I didn't really remember it. And I just wrote him back with a couple simple questions, make sure the stage program is not overbooked, because I need little 2 or 3 minute segments half a dozen times throughout the day to insert the rap songs there, the Krishna conscious rap songs. Otherwise, traveling all the way across the country and then kind of being in a rush to get all the dancers on stage, it's not much fun. So I just asked a simple, mild question: can we make sure we're not overbooked so that I can insert? Now, I didn't get any answer. I emailed right back in the same thread, and 4 days later, I still hadn't received an answer. And then I followed it up with another email on June the 14th. And I said, can I talk to the person that's in charge of your stage program? Just to make sure, just double checking, no big deal. I still didn't get an answer. I didn't get an answer at all. So, they had promised to reimburse me for the ticket, and I never bothered to get the ticket. I figure they must have changed their mind or lost interest, or maybe something I'd said about needing maybe a total of 30 minutes during the 3 hours had offended them. And so I just, come Friday, the day before the event, I hadn't bought my ticket and kind of put it out of my mind. So I get an email Friday morning, are you here? I wrote back, I said, no. If you look at my messages to you, it said I'm hesitant to make the arrangements without some basic assurances of having some time. And throughout the day, I didn't hear anything. Then we had a wonderful cookout on the patio back here. Um, and just before that cookout started at 8, about 7:30, I get a call from Boston. And he says, are you here? And I said, didn't you get my email this morning? Apparently, this is someone who does not read his emails. I said, no, I'm not here. So anyway, we talked, and he was under the impression that we'd worked everything out, but it was so long ago. I don't remember the conversation. I don't remember the details. Then, to my great mortification, to my eternal discredit, I happened to go online and I found the stage schedule published there. Caru, welcoming address. Caru, 3 minutes here. Caru, 4 minutes here. They'd, in fact, made time for me, 35 minutes, which practically speaking can easily end up being twice that amount of time. They'd actually made all the arrangements, but they didn't tell me. And that's always good. If you make arrangements for somebody, it's always good to tell them because they like to know that before they travel 3,000 miles round trip. Anyway, comedy of errors. That's going to be a great story for years in the past. It's almost better I hadn't gone than if I had gone. If I had gone, I'd have some great stories to tell, but they would be similar to the stories I tell about having gone to a number of other similar events. But this one, having been advertised and promoted, but not told about it, that's a story which stands alone. That's a unique story. Now, on the other hand, Mad and Gopal's a good friend of mine. They originally brought me out to New Jersey, oh, maybe 12, 13 years ago when they first started uh, to work on this new temple project in Parsippany. It was a board, Nilamani, Ramachandran, Madan Gopal, uh, 2 or 3 other people. And they were bored. They were living in this 150-year-old fire trap. I hate to say it because it's been the glorious temple of the lordships for many years, but honestly, it's like an old building. There's no question of renovating it. It would cost you millions of dollars to renovate it. And so they had bought a piece of land in Parsippany, centrally located. Parsippany is packed, chock-a-block, as the Australians, with Indians. Every 5 people you see walking on the street in Parsippany, 4 of them are Indians. A huge Indian population, and they're having a Festival of Colors this Saturday. So I have a long history with the devotees there, Madan Gopal, Nilamani. They brought me there 15 years ago to fundraise, and they've been at it for a year or so, and it was an uphill battle. The neighbors were objecting. The city council was objecting about the size of it, the shape of it. They ended up spending $50,000 in legal fees alone just to clear all the obstacles to get the permits. During that time, when things were delayed, some people had given $20,000 or $50,000, asked for their money back because nothing was happening. But still, these stalwart devotees kept on, kept moving ahead. Yesterday, we had a ceremony, the bathing of Lord Jagannath, and I gave a motivational talk just before he did the button. And the title of the talk was Hit the Delete Button. You can access it on our Facebook page. Sometimes in order to accomplish what you want to accomplish, things don't happen as you anticipated them. They don't happen as you'd expected. They don't happen on your timetable. But you have to learn to take the negatives and not dwell on them. Negative things that happen, the negative things that people say and do, the backstabbing, the betrayals, the unforeseen situations. You have to get good at hitting the delete button. You can't stop situations and people and circumstances from knocking at your door with negative things about you, negative things about your progress, negative things about your ability. The neighbors, the city council, members who are taking their money back and who become critics instead of supporters. These things are going to happen in life. Um, you can't be surprised by them. You need to expect the unexpected. Recognize that on your way to your destiny, there'll be some nasty, nasty things that you won't understand. Untidy, messy, messy, messy things. But there's a saying that comes to mind: your mess will become your message. Your mess will become your message. I am in so much awe of these devotees, including Madan Gopal and Neelamani. Ramachandra's started another congregation in central New Jersey, but they stayed the course. They were expert. Neighbors up in arms, hit the delete button. Deal with it, but don't dwell on it. Don't let it slow you down. Don't let it discourage you. City council, just an endless, just a miasma of red tape. Just unbelievable. Soaking up $50,000, which could have been used for construction, and useless legal fees, just so that the city bureaucrats can see why asses, um, members that turn coat, that supported you at one time and then become your critics and take their money back and all. My hat is off to these devotees. They're Mahatmas. And now, after like 15 years of uphill struggles against every imaginable, conceivable negative circumstance, they delete, 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 delete. And now Madan Gopal has done such an expert job of marshaling forces and fundraising. I think it's like a $12 million temple right in Parsippany. Huge, huge density of Indian population. The temple, I think, is just within a few months of opening. I believe it's scheduled for a September opening. I looked at the pictures online on their website. Go to ISKCON, New Jersey, if you like. It looks finished to me. I mean, they have a picture of the completed temple room. It's gorgeous. Long story short, I reached out to Madan Gopal um, with the suggestion that I come to MC and do some rap music. I would make the travel arrangements. They could give donation, reimburse me as they saw fit. Within a half an hour, he emailed me back. And not only did he email me back affirmatively, but he anticipated my questions. He said, yes, we will arrange the stage program in such a way that dip, 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 dip. You will have three to 5 minutes in between each, and you'll get 35 to 40 minutes all total. And he also gave me the contact information of the manageress, the lady who manages the stage program. Her name is Tripti. She's going to call me tonight. We're going to talk about the stage program in detail. Now, it's funny because the two things just came on back-to-back weekends, the example of what not to do and what to do. And I'm not criticizing the temple president of Boston. I'm sure he has tons and tons of things on his plate. He's a wonderful devotee. I love him to death. He's a good friend. We chuckled about all the faux pas, the misdirected communications on Friday night. And we decided that we're going to, down the line, I'm going to come there. We do it up big, maybe on the 50th anniversary or the 60th anniversary, I think it was, or maybe 75. I don't know. I'm not going to do the math right now. Prabhupada's arriving in Boston Harbor on the Jaladuta. They're planning a huge festival in 2025. So he said, True, we want you to be there. Anyway, that brings you up on current events. I will be going to New Jersey on Friday night, taking a midnight flight, arriving at 6:30, going to stay with my old dear friends, Nisha and Devi Seal, who live right next to the temple and to the site where the Rath Yatra is going to take place. I'm very excited about that. So, kind of a mess up last weekend, but this weekend's going to be as different from last weekend as one thing could possibly be from another. I'm excited about another thing too. In the story of Gajendra, we're at 113th episode here. In the story of Gajendra, we come to a point where Gajendra, he's offered his prayers. He's offered his prayers. When the Lord heard the eloquent prayers of the elephant, he steered Guru to the spot, and he sheared with his chakra the crocodile's head from his body. When the reptile lay dead and Gajendra was shed of his dread, he resumed the thread of his prayers and said, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Gajendra had recalled prayers from his previous life as Hindu, 28 verses, and along with the lotus flower, he offered those prayers which he had recalled, which had resurfaced from his previous life, to the Lord. And along with those prayers, he said, Lord, anybody can offer prayers, anyone go to church, anyone go to temple, anyone can memorize verses, anyone can put on an external show of devotion. But only you know their heart. Only you know our hearts better than we know. And what does that mean to say God knows our hearts better? He is closer than a brother. He's in the heart. He intimates what we're going to do, what we're going to think before we even know what it is. Just like a aroma of a flower, gardenia, jasmine, rose. You can tell what the flower is, even if your eyes are closed, by the smell. Rose, that smells like jasmine. That smells like magnolia. That smells like gardenia. Krishna can smell us. He can smell the fragrance of our consciousness at any given moment. You cannot fool Krishna. You can fool yourself. You can be prey to self-deception, but you cannot fool Krishna. So Gajendra, he's transparent enough in all of this to say, Lord, in this life and death situation, coming to the service of my consciousness are these 28 prayers from a previous life. I've just repeated those prayers to you. I've offered a lotus flower. I know it looks good. It's like there's so many paintings of Gajendra with the crocodile on his leg and the lotus flower and the Lord on Garuda. It looks great. And Gajendra says, I know this looks good. I know this, it looks good. It sounds good. It's good visually. It's good orally. But Lord, if there's any falsity, you are going to know that before me. You're going to know that before me. So number one, Lord, along with all of my prayers, so-called prayers from being almost 99% of pure devotee, all of my prayers, I want you, number one, to recognize that if there's any pretension, if there's any falsity, I want you to recognize that and I want you to correct it. Just like I was living for 1,000 years in total forgetfulness of you. I hadn't thought of you once in this elephant's lifetime in 1,000 years. And you corrected that. You brought that crocodile, you sent that crocodile, it was sent directly by you. I welcome that crocodile, I embrace that crocodile, I thank that crocodile. That crocodile saved my soul. And that was all you're doing, Lord. So now, in this situation, I am offering the lotus flower, I'm offering those prayers, but I'm also asking you, Lord, you know if I'm deceiving myself. You know if anybody is deceiving, and we have such a capacity for self-deception. Oh my God. It's unlimited. The ability or the proclivity of a living being to deceive themselves, that they are all right, that they're okay. I'm okay. You're okay. I'm God. You're God. I'm a pious religious. I'm a good person. I'm going to the spiritual world. Krishna loves me. We have an unlimited capacity for self-deception, but none of this can get past Krishna. So Gajendra is willing to lay it on the altar. He's willing that, Lord, I've offered these prayers. I'm in a life or death situation. I don't think there are any impurities within my heart. I think that I'm really desperately and helplessly calling out for your help. I don't think I'm relying on my strength or my birth or even on the demigods. I think that I have succeeded in transferring my faith and my trust finally 100% to you. But I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know if there's some lingering, residual, dark, encrusted, lesion-like, scabby places within my heart where I am sheltering some selfishness, some ego. And so, Lord, I'm asking you, I'm depending on you. I'm crying out for you. As long as you're going to rescue me, and apparently you are, because you're here in Groot and so on and so forth. Apparently, as long as you're going to rescue me from the crocodile, can you please allow me this opportunity to also remove any impurities from my heart? Shrinvatam Shrakata Krishnam Punyasam Hridantashtu Vidunatiya Saritsam. From within the heart, if we're willing, if we invite him to do so, the Lord will shine his light into every nook and cranny and remove all the dark places in our heart. And that's all we need. We need the light of the Lord fully ablaze within our hearts, and every unwanted thing will be dissipated and every good quality will drop into place. Essentially, Gajendra is asking the Lord, please x-ray my heart. I, along with all of the living entities, have an unlimited capacity to deceive ourselves. You ask anybody, they're eating meat, they're drinking alcohol, they're watching stupid DVDs every Saturday night, if not longer. They're zoning out in front of the idiot box for hours and hours every night. And you ask them, do you think you're a good person? Of course, I'm a good person. Do you think you're going to go to heaven? I believe I am going to go to heaven. You ask anybody, you'll get more or less this vast majority, 80% of Americans believe they're good people, and they believe that they're going to go to heaven. This, and I'm not saying it's the case in every case, but it is mass epidemic self-deception. We're not nearly as well off as we think we are. We're not nearly as good as we think we are. Or we may be good. We may be good. I may be willing to concede that we're good. We're good people. But good doesn't cut it. Good is not good enough. If you want to go to the kingdom of God, you have to be transcendental. Good is just the flip side of bad. Good means you get a bit of a promotion in your next life. Bad means you get a demotion. But either case, you're in this material world. Either you go up to a class A prison cell, or you drop down to a class C prison cell. In either case, good or bad means you're imprisoned. You're subject to birth, death, disease, and old age. You're not about to get out of this material world. You have to be able to focus. Let me see if I can recall this recent rap song I've been working on about focus. This material world's like a shopping mall, hustling, bustling, and loud. Distraction, attractions abound. Sights and sounds can enshroud like clouds obscuring the ground. Better not to wander uh, aimless in the crowd, our mission forgotten, our commission under remission. Life's endless paths distract and delay. The stores in life's mall can lead you astray. Better discriminate to see Maya's bait, sick to the straightaway and reach heaven's gate. Accept only that provision which will get you out of prison, revive your eternal condition. We need to listen to the sages by whose grace we are engaged, by whose vision we are risen. It's not worth the risk to stray from Krishna's shopping list. Better not too much stopping, hopping from aisle to aisle, swapping precious minutes for trinkets. Here is the gist of Krishna's list. Chant my name, claim my protection, let go of tension, let my affection maintain you. Keep your attention focused on me exclusively. Okay. When you enter Maya's store, better to get less than more. Stick to the list. Don't miss eternal Krishna bliss because of the hiss of Maya's kiss. Be focused like the bee. Seek only the flower, not the stem or the leaves. Devotees can take oil from water, venom from poison, and the clean from the unsoiled. As we traverse life's plane, do what you came for and nothing more. Do what you came for, nothing more. Don't be tempted by the glitter. Filter out the litter. Rather than frittering away your life and going astray, stay the course, back to the source, the ever-existing youth who plays on his flute, the absolute truth, the root of creation. Focus. That is just the import of this song. Don't be subject to self-delusion. Don't get distracted by the stores in Maya's mall. There's a story about self-delusion I'd like to share with you. A man came to the pearly gates, and Gabriel, who's charged with being the bouncer, letting people in or turning them away. He said, "What's your name?" The man told Gabriel his name. He flipped through this huge book of life. Apparently they don't have computers up there. And he saw the man's name. And he said, you haven't really done anything. You haven't really done anything to qualify to enter into the pearly gates. And the man said, "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" He said, "I remember distinctly about 20 years ago, I gave $5 in the collection plate." So Gabriel thought about that for a moment, nodded his head. He closed the book, uh, and he said, and he pulled $5 from his toga, from his robes. He said, "Take your $5 back and go to hell." Someone once said, when you're upset, and just think about how often we get upset every day. I know I do. I get upset. I get exasperated. The other day in the kitchen, we were preparing for things, and as usual, I was finding so many things that need to be done. And I said, "Where's Raleigh? Where's our cook? Did he even come in today?" This was Sunday. And Bobby stares at me, and there's other volunteers, and she stares at me. She fixes me. She pins me with her stare, and she says, dripping with sarcasm, "Raleigh's on vacation. He hasn't been here all weekend." And I should have known that, but I was wondering why can't you just answer that question in a normal tone of voice? Why does it have to be this this hard stare and confrontational mood and dripping with sarcasm? Why not just say, "Oh, Raleigh's on vacation"? Like, just make it simple. Don't dramatize it. Don't escalate it. So by Bobby and I are always like, we're always getting uh, commingled. We're always getting tangled in drama. Men don't like to be stared at. Nobody likes to have that hard stare. Um, when a llama gets too close to another llama, um, the first thing they do is they give the one llama that feels like the other llama's gotten into a space. It gives the llama a hard stare. And that's usually enough to send a message, back off, back off. If that doesn't send the message, then the llama's ears go down. If the other llama is still not getting the message and backing off, then there's like the first llama is bringing up all this phlegm. And if the llama still doesn't get it, then katui, there's green spit, grass, which has been through four stomachs and back up again, goes into the offending llama's face. So no one likes to be stared at. Animals in the zoo are pretty much, they have a lot of problem reproducing because the males are being stared at all day long. And the result of their being stared at is that they're emasculated. In any case, that's a distraction. But it said you're never upset for the reason that you think you are. And that's because we're riddled through with self-deception. Self-deception, one definition of self-deception, is the problem of not knowing that you have a problem. I think that's really profound. Just think about that. Think of the Republicans, think of the Democrats, think of the Reds, think of the Blues. Self-deception is the problem of not knowing that you have a problem. What is the problem there? Well, the problem is if you don't know that you have a problem, then you're never going to solve the problem. Am I right? Or am I wrong? If you're going to solve the problem, you have to, first of all, know that you have a problem. Socrates, you remember Socrates, the one who drank poison. He was accused of being too forthright, too open, too analytical. Anytime anyone would ask him a question, he would ask questions back. And in the course of asking questions about people, he would force them to be honest about themselves. Eventually, he would force them, rather than blaming others or denying that The problem doesn't exist with others. The problem doesn't exist in the political system. The problem doesn't exist externally. But Socrates, through his what is called the Socratic method, he would bring to people's attention the fact that the problem is in you. People generally don't like that. It's a little painful to be introspective. It's a little painful to examine yourself, your heart, and your motives. And people generally slide over it. And they just blithely delude themselves into thinking, I'm okay, you're okay. Socrates would not let them off the hook. He would ask question after question after question. He would peel back layer after layer after layer after layer till they finally got to the heart of the matter. And most people discovered when they arrived beyond all the layers of self-dissension and pretense that they weren't really good people at all. They weren't honest. They weren't well-intentioned. They weren't good. You know, we often, someone told me yesterday, well, it's possible to be an atheist and be a good person. Well, can I turn that around and say it's possible to be a religious person and not be a good person? The definition of good is it sanctioned by God? Does God want it? Is it in line with God's purposes? You know, we manufacture, you know, we in our self-deception, in our eternal cycle of self-deception, we manufacture good and bad. It's all manufactured. It's all concocted from individuals and collectives and communities and nations who know nothing outside of self-deception. And in a profound state of perennial self-deception, we decide what's good and bad. And what one community decides good, another community decides is bad. What another community says bad, and what another community. For every good, there's a corresponding bad. For every bad, there's a corresponding good. The result is you have no standard of morality. In the relative world, there is no good. There is no bad. Good is relative. What's good for me? What's good for my relatives? Bad is what's bad, what's good for someone else, and that might shortchange me. Good and bad are decided from our own limited in time and space and in these bodies point of view. Now, there is no good or bad in this material world. Only God is good. Only God is in the heart of every living being. Only God sees past, present, and future. Only God knows what are the results of our actions. You'll probably know this better than mine, but they say when a butterfly flutters its wings in South America, it causes a plane to go down in Europe. Chain reaction events. God knows. Every time a butterfly opens its wings or lands on a flower, every time a fly takes off or lands, God knows what, if any, are going to be the reverberations of that act and how extensive and far-reaching they're going to be. God knows it all. So when God makes a suggestion, that is the definition of morality. On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna asked Arjuna to go to do something that went against all of his training, all of his conditioning, all of his upbringing, to fight his cousin brothers and his teachers. That was simply not done in Arjuna's culture. And yet Arjuna came around to the point of thinking, Krishna's ways may twist and turn, my heart may throb and ache, but my soul is no concern, because the Lord makes no mistake. My sacred plans may go astray, my hopes may fade away, but you know what? I'll still trust in him to lead, because he knows the way. Though the night be dark and the light take forever to break, I'm going to go along with him, because he makes no mistake. There's so much I cannot see. My eyesight parted him. Who am I to disagree? I'm just going to go along with him. And by the mist will lift, the foggy night will fade, and the rising sun will make it plain. He made not one mistake. Krishna is saying, among other things, to Arjuna, trust me. I'm still on the throne. I've still got you in the palm of my hand. As confusing and as negative as the situation seems to be right now, And that situation wasn't created by God. What the awkward, confusing, murky situation that played itself out on the battlefield of Kurukshetra was not created or engineered by God. It was engineered by people who were full of self-deception. Duryodhana, Karna, Sakuni, Ashwatthama, even Dronacharya and Bhisma were not immune from the vast web of self-deception. Dhritarashtra firmly, firmly tied up, bound up in the web of conspiracy of self-deception. Only Krishna stands above, like the sun above the clouds. The sun can never become covered by the clouds. The sun can never be obscured. The sun can never be cast in shadow. The sun can never create darkness. Sun produces only light. The sun produces only good. So if you want good, don't talk to me about your man-made, concocted, self-duplicitous, self-deceiving good. It's all bogus. It's all nonsense. No one can be good unless they're focusing, unless they're taking their cues from God. Doesn't matter whether you're an atheist or whether you're an agnostic or a Stoic or a Parsi or a Zoroastrian or Muslim or a Hindu or a Jew. It doesn't matter. The definition of good is God. Only God is good, and only those who chant his holy names and open themselves up for his direction through his presence within the heart and through scriptural injunctions and through the association and advice of holy people, take only that provision which will get you out of prison, relieve your eternal condition. We need to listen to the sages by whose grace we are engaged, by whose vision we are risen. From the scripture, from Lord within the heart, and from great saints and sages. These should be our cues. You want to know what good is? These are the three lenses through which you can see what's good and what is self-deception. So in my internet research about self-deception, and this is a vast topic, if you want to find out for yourself, just type in self-deception. Oh my gosh, it's practically a lot there, and there should be a lot there because it's practically the whole history of human society. is one of self-deception. Om Ganatimarandasya Ganangara Salaga Chaksuran Militam Yana Tajmai Sri. I offer my respectful obeisances to the lotus feet of my spiritual master who came to me while I was standing in the darkness of ignorance, in the darkness of self-deception. He bore the shining torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Practically the only light in this dark world is that of the spiritual master. The politicians, the leaders, the communicators, the religious communicators in mega churches. Andantarashta paramano chayantarashta. Nate vidu shwarta garimi Vishnu darasye birarta andaya tandari upide tebi shatanarma. One may be very good at speaking, a good communicator, extremely articulate, with vast followings and resources. But if one's not taking one's marching orders from Guru, Shastra, Sadhu, from saintly persons, from scripture, and from the Lord within the heart, then one is leading people astray. It is a case of the blind misleading the blind. If one himself or herself is blind to the fact that only God is good, and only by getting instructions from the personality of Godhead through the authorized channels can one do good to ourselves, what to speak, doing good to others. If one doesn't recognize and live by that guiding principle, then one is likened to a blind person leading other blind people. What will happen? They will all go over a ditch. Imagine a vast congregation of blind people. They can't see. And someone calls, follow me, I have the answers. Let's just say hypothetically, someone loud, brash, angry, blaming others, making excuses, dishonest, married multiple times, with each one of his multiple wives. He's cheating on his wives without giving it a second thought. He's paying those women with whom he's cheating hush money to keep silent. He's defrauding people in his business dealings, giving false statements to the government, false statements to investors, false statements to the IRS. He's got a proven track record of lying, of self-interest. And he has millions of followers. And he has millions and millions and millions of followers. Well, this is a verification. This is a shining example of mass self-deception, self-delusion, cheating oneself, cheating others. In all of that, what's needed is one beam of light. All it takes is one beam of light. Doesn't matter how deep or abysmal or impenetrable, quote unquote, the darkness is, that darkness cannot stand in the face of even a slight beam of light. And so we thank our spiritual master. Every morning we get up. Vande Gurosi Chana Samsara Dava Nalalita Lord. Thank God, Lord, that in this forest fire of material existence, in this revolution of birth, death, disease, and old age, thank God we have an alternative to the self-deluding, maniacal, egotistical, dangerous politicians and leaders and even religious communicators in the form of bona fide spiritual master who saves us from the darkness of ignorance by shining the torchlight of knowledge. So in any case, I have an example here called from the internet. I think I'll leave it for tomorrow. I think I'll leave it tomorrow. Tomorrow we will dive more deeply into this whole phenomenon of individual and mass self-deception, which is the overriding characteristic of conditioned souls within this material world. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh boy, we got wound up today, didn't we? Yeah. So Bhai Bobby came on board. Britta agrees with me with this statement. Britta from Ogden. All the politicians and nonprofits in the world are for naught if they are not centered on God. What a relief. I mean, with all the murkiness and all the subjectivity and all the self-serving egoticity, what a relief. How refreshing it is to get a bona fide spiritual master who says, really, you don't have to know about all of the different competing relative theories, doctrines. You don't have to listen to all the speeches of the pretenders and the imposters. All you have to do is listen to Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, listen to the great, tried and true saints who passed the test of the ages, like Prahlad Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj, Vyasadeva, Narada Muni. Now, Narada Muni, there's a personality you can guide your life on. Narada Muni. If you don't have anybody else, Narada Muni will get you to where you need to go. Otherwise, the option is just self-illusion, self-deception, and don't fool yourself. Massive self-destruction. Not only the physical destruction of the body through horrible, unbeneficial works meant to destroy the world, but worse than that is the destruction of the soul. Nirvita tarshanita bikana babosho mano kautamashoka punambarajata vina pashuddha. Said that the topics of the Lord are so glorious, it's so nectarine. And what type of people enjoy those topics? The swan-like men and women, the Mahatmas, the pure devotees of the Lord. They're compared to swans. Swans take the buds of the lotus flower as their only food. They take only the choice, sweet, juicy buds of the lotus flower as their food. So Krishna's pastimes are so nectarine, so voluminous. And the Mahatmas, the great transcendentalists, they take as their nourishment only the topics of Krishna's pastimes. And thereby doing, they show us the blazing highway back to home, back to God, and how fortunate we are to have connected with the great souls whose words and realizations alone can guide us out of this material world. Samsara dava nalalita loka tranaya karana ganagana ganapam. All right. So Britta, we thank Britta for 3 comments. We thank Bhai Bobby for being there. And we also thank Namamrita for joining us. And Rob, to finish things off here, do you have any takeaways that you'd like to share with us in conclusion this morning?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
All
Krishna.
right. You may put on an external show, but Krishna will know what's going on below.
Nice.
No matter your material condition, it's all still a prison.
Mm-hmm. To the point.
And if you're not self-reflective, like an objective detective using the Socratic method, our perspective will be self-deceptive, unable to see where we are defective.
Woo! That's about the longest one you've ever written. But it's on point. It's very good. Yeah, we'll actually have a lot more to talk about Socrates tomorrow. He was, in many ways, a very exemplary character. He said, the life which is not examined is not worth living. More about that and more about these topics tomorrow for Transcendental Tuesday. In the meantime, thank you for being with us here, Motivational Monday. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.